My take on it is that President Trump wants a deal in Gaza, wants ceasefire. For once, he's doing the right thing. He wants the right thing. He wants a ceasefire in Gaza. And the Epstein files were going to be used. They were afraid that the Epstein files were going to be used against Americans to put pressure on American politicians to go along with Mr. Netanyahu. And for once, the American government did the right thing. They said there's no files, forget it. But there will be no pressure on us from that end.
Well, wait a minute. If he has the files, he could still release them and not only put pressure on them, but embarrass the Department of Justice for lying about it, if he wanted to do that.
Yeah, well, that would be too much even for Netanyahu to do. Yeah.
Even for Netanyahu. Clearly, if Epstein, yes, go on. If he was working for Israeli intelligence, whether it was your
I am sure they have copies of the videos, and I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
But Trump comes along and says, or somebody in the Justice Department comes along and says, "Hey, we have no evidence. Forget it. They can say whatever they want, but we have no evidence, and we're going to do what needs to be done. Our policies are our policies, and we're not going to buckle under pressure from the Israelis."
Right. United States Department of Justice leaked to the media a two-page memo that seeks to end the drama of the pedophile and sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, and whether there was evidence, particularly video evidence, that Epstein had blackmail material on a list of very powerful men, showing them committing illegal acts with underage girls. Also on Sunday night, as the memo was leaked, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was arriving in Washington for a series of meetings still going on at the White House, the Congress, State Department, the Pentagon, and with other powerful actors in the Capitol. Netanyahu is seeking continued U.S. backing in his quest to ethnically cleanse Gaza of its Palestinian population and to continue his war against Iran. The Department of Justice Epstein memo said that its, quote, systematic review revealed no incriminating, quote, client list, close quote. There was also no credible evidence, the DOJ memo said, found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Close quote. The memo seeks to disconnect Epstein's crimes from any of the powerful men whom he associated with. The memo says, consistent with prior disclosures, this review confirmed that Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims. Each suffered unique trauma. None of the hours of video evidence Epstein filmed with hidden cameras in his various residences will be released or even discussed. The court seal on these videos, quote, served only to protect victims and did not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing, close quote. The memo also says that video from the jail where Epstein was being held in Manhattan showed that no one entered his cell area on the night that he died, and thus the Department of Justice ruled that he died by suicide. Case closed. Or is it? Here to connect Netanyahu's visit with the release of the Department of Justice memo is Ari Ben Manash, who is a former official with Israel's Defense Intelligence Agency. Thanks for coming on, Ari. First, you were on our show some time ago and you laid this out, and I'd like you to do it again. Can you please explain, before we get into the details of the memo, what are the links, or what were the links between Epstein and Israeli intelligence?
He was working for Israeli intelligence. As simple as that.
What was his job?
His collect information about important people around the world.
To do what with?
Sorry,
To do what
to
with this information?
maybe blackmail them or use it against them.
And how do you? I know you worked inside defense intelligence. I think you had some
Yeah.
personal experiences. Tell us how you know this and any direct experiences you had of
Okay.
this.
Okay. I used to work with Robert Maxwell in London, and Epstein was a regular visitor in London to Robert Maxwell's office. And Robert Maxwell was the one that introduced Epstein to Israeli intelligence at the time. This goes back to the 80s. And we were all much younger than 1980s. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And while while working with Maxwell, Epstein also met Maxwell's daughter, who became his girlfriend, who started working with him.
this is Ghislaine
And
Maxwell. Mhm.
yes, Ghislaine Maxwell. And Ghislaine Maxwell is now in jail. She was sentenced to 20 years in jail for working with Epstein. Uh, there were a number of ladies that testified against her, that she was pimping them to other people through Epstein. And I'm just wondering what the Justice Department is going to do with Ghislaine Maxwell, who is currently serving 20 years in jail, whether for exactly what they're saying did it not happen. Was the judge crazy? Were the four witnesses lying? Was the fifth one that died in Australia lying about all this? Did Prince Andrew, who was also connected to them, paid compensation to one of the girls? Did he just pay it for no reason? I'm just wondering about all that.
What was she charged, convicted of? Do you know?
Particularly, the conviction was about her working with Epstein and pimping young underage girls.
Pimping the girls to powerful men or to other men,
Yeah,
let's say. Other men.
other
So there
men.
were
Yeah.
other men. There was a client list, in other words.
Apparently, there was, yes.
Because if there were no client list, she would not be in jail for pimping them. You have to,
Correct,
right?
correct.
So it wasn't that she abused the girls herself, although there may have been an allegation of that too, I think. But it was the men, Epstein and these men who did the abusing. She arranged a nice way of saying
She was
pimping.
the person arranging these.
Right. But some people who might be powerful. Now, he took videos. Elizabeth, let me ask you this because you're an expert on this. How many houses did he have video cameras in? I think it was Arizona, the island, Florida, and the New York
Yeah,
townhouse.
that we know of. We have evidence of definitely the New York City townhouse that you mentioned. Definitely that was allegedly reported to be wired completely. There was a whole room for surveillance, but I would imagine that all of his residences were wired for surveillance for sure.
Right. And the Department of Justice is trying to tell us that these videos were child pornography and what else does it say here? It had nothing to do with any clients and that they weren't
Basically,
released because protecting the victims.
Yes, essentially they say that all of those hundreds of gigabytes of material were only of Epstein committing abuse himself. They don't even mention Ghislaine,
Ah,
although the victims say that she also participated in that abuse often. But they don't mention that. Or that it was pornography that he had downloaded from the internet that was totally unrelated, and that
right.
he had all these residences, wired for surveillance, and that we should accept though that none of that material had any of those people in it.
Right. So the
He
key
didn't use
thing is
it
it
all.
was just he himself committing these illegal acts, no one else.
Right.
That's what
And
we're
the
supposed.
story
That's what we're supposed to believe.
and the story completely changed. Pam Bondi a few months ago said that, all of these thousands of documents, she didn't specify videos only, she said documents, etc., were going to be gone through for review to protect the witnesses, but that stuff would be published. And now she's saying, "Oh, well, don't ask us to publish child pornography." And nobody's asking for that for the first thing. And then, but so the fact that the story has changed from we're only going to redact what's necessary to protect victims and potentially national security to there is absolutely nothing you will see because there is nothing to see other than Epstein himself or what he downloaded.
Before we get back to Ari, what do you think happened there? Did Bundy not know what she was talking about? Did she know what she was talking about and was told to shut up? What do you think happened?
I mean, it's hard to say definitively. I would be just completely speculating here, but I think probably she was just told what to say. Honestly,
Right,
that's my take.
right. Okay, so this was leaked to Axios on Sunday night, and a plane was touching down at somewhere in one of the Washington airports on Sunday night. It actually was 1 a.m., I think, Monday morning. Then Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu came. Would he have any interest in this kind of an operation that to protect an Israeli operation by any chance?
Well, my take on it is that President Trump wants a deal in Gaza, wants ceasefire. For once, he's doing the right thing. He wants the right thing. He wants a ceasefire in Gaza. And the Epstein files were going to be used. They were afraid that the Epstein files were going to be used against Americans to put pressure on American politicians to go along with Mr. Netanyahu. And for once, the American government did the right thing. They said there's no files, forget it. But there will be no pressure on us from that end.
Well, wait a minute. If he has the files, he could still release them and not only put pressure on them, but embarrass the Department of Justice for lying about it if he wanted to do that.
Yeah, well, that would be too much even for Netanyahu to do. Yeah.
Even for Netanyahu.
uh,
Clearly,
he,
if Epstein, yes, go on. If he was working
it,
for Israeli intelligence, whether it was your
I am
direct, you
sure they
or
have copies of the
they have it.
videos, and I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
But Trump comes along and says, or somebody in the Justice Department comes along and says, "Hey, we have no evidence. Forget it. They can say whatever they want, but we have no evidence, and we're going to do what needs to be done. Our policies are our policies, and we're not going to buckle under pressure from the Israelis."
Right.
Is this kind of the last gasp of the story that we're going to hear, do you think? I mean, is this really the end, or is this going to go into the
I
ashy?
still want to hear what's going to happen to Ghislaine Maxwell, who's in jail for 20 years. If nothing happened, why is she in jail?
Yeah. I mean, even the
And
conviction yeah, that
sorry,
they
just
got.
a second.
Yeah.
And I really think, uh, in a way, President Trump is trying to bring an end to the war in Gaza, and he does not want pressure put on him by all kinds of stories on American politicians. Thing there's during Clinton days, President Clinton days, there was a meeting between Ehud Barak, then Prime Minister of Israel, President Clinton, and Arafat. Now, the two people that were under pressure was President Clinton and Ehud Barak, who was also compromised by other Israelis. He was Epstein's best friend, by the way. Yes. And as a result of that, there was no deal between Arafat and Israel at the time. They were very close to finishing a deal with a Palestinian state in place. So maybe, I'm guessing, that the American administration this time did not want to repeat that story again. Maybe President Trump did the right thing. I don't know. Okay, to just say. But again, how are they going to explain the Miss Maxwell in jail? How are they going to explain that? How are they going to explain the testimony of the ladies that testified in court against Miss Maxwell and thing? So I think, in a way, this was their intentions were good. They were trying to put away pressure, push back on Netanyahu. If you noticed, all the meetings were private. They were not public like before between President Trump and Netanyahu. And President Trump really wants to bring peace and a ceasefire in Gaza. Preventing him from doing that is Mr. Netanyahu and people around him, and maybe some other politicians in the United States. But the idea is bring to a ceasefire in the United States, in Gaza, sorry. And if you noticed, he keeps on talking about ceasefire will be this week, then maybe next week, or so on, if you watched the media about him. So I think it's very much related to that.
What happened to his idea of his golf courses, resorts, and all of that in Gaza? In February, when Netanyahu was in the White House, he said he wanted
He
to
changed
cleanse the whole place.
he at that time he did not understand what he was saying and doing, but this time around he really wants to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza. I can promise you that.
And you told me when we spoke before that there's a
Yeah.
plan to have someone come in and rule Gaza. Tell me about that.
No. The idea is to have the Arab League based in center in Cairo run Gaza with a Palestinian governor that will be appointed by the Arab League. And the Saudis are willing to put money in it, and the Egyptians are willing to give protection to Gaza by sending troops. And the Egyptians are also willing to lease land for an airport and an port, lease land in Sinai for this. And the issue is very simple. Do you go along with the Arabs or do you go along with Israel? At this point, with not Israel, Netanyahu, sorry. At this point, I believe the American administration believes it's the right thing to do to go along with the Arab League and to stop the killing in Gaza.
And this is what you think Trump wants right now.
Right now, this is what he wants, yes.
And in order to remove the blackmailable option that Netanyahu carries, they decided to put out this memo saying there's no material, no blackmail material, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's right.
To
That's
diffuse
my take. Huh? That's my
diffuse.
take.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my take on it. But of course, there are a lot of loose ends that they didn't think about.
Mhm.
The girl in jail, the four girls that
Yeah.
testified, the
Right.
judge.
Like Andrew, why would Prince Andrew have paid that woman, the one who
Yeah,
died?
it's the same thing.
If
Yeah,
he
it's
wasn't a
another
client, he
loose.
wasn't a client,
It's
right? Why would he pay?
another loose. It's another loose end that they didn't think about. That's correct. But again, the intentions were honorable intentions, but there are lots of loose ends.
Now you say that Robert Maxwell and Epstein were good friends, or they liked each other. They both
Oh
died
no,
from.
Robert Maxwell liked the young
Yeah.
Epstein.
Did
He
Epstein like
wanted.
anybody but himself? I wonder if he
Sorry,
liked. I wonder if Epstein liked
that's
anyone but himself. Yeah.
no. But Robert Maxwell actually was the one that introduced him to the Israelis. At the time when I met him, I refused to have anything to do with him because I felt he's a bit of a whatever.
I'd love to know what you're thinking. Creep, something like that. Now,
Something of that nature.
Robert Maxwell and Epstein both died from suspicious circumstances, suicide. Maxwell fell overboard, and that was a suicide, right? Nobody pushed him. And
And
now we hear
Maxwell felt,
Epstein. Yeah.
sorry,
Now we hear
Maxwell
Epstein died
felt,
in his cell by his own hand.
yeah, yeah. Well, Maxwell, quote unquote, fell overboard his ship,
Yeah.
his yacht that was called after, was named after his daughter that's in
Right.
jail right now. Okay. Um, Probably because the Israelis did not want him to get arrested. Remember, he was about to get arrested by the Brits for stealing the pension funds and so on and so
Right.
forth. It's a different story right now.
Yeah. Remember.
Huh?
I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So that was Maxwell
They were
himself.
afraid he was going to talk. So
They were
somehow
afraid that he was going to talk a lot. Yes.
the
Yes.
story is
Yes.
he was relieving himself overboard at the time and slipped. This is what I recall. So
Okay.
you don't.
Whatever. Whatever. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so you're saying the Israelis who somebody had someone on board that yacht with him and he was killed. And what do you think happened?
Um,
You think he was
I'm
killed?
saying that it was probable that the Israelis had something to do with him relieving himself and slipping. Yes.
All right.
Okay. Okay. But going back here, I don't know. I'm I'm not sure what happened in that cell.
Did
It's
you
hard
watch
to
the
come.
video? Did you watch the video? That they released the video, Elizabeth, isn't that right? Of the cell?
No,
Yeah.
I didn't watch the video, but I doubt that it's that easy to commit suicide in a cell like that.
Hmm. Did you watch it, Elizabeth?
I mean, it's almost 11 hours of, almost
Right.
nothing happening, but there is apparently there's 1 minute missing from it right around midnight. And then Penn Bondi's excuse for that is that every night the prison resets the
Of course.
video. And there's, a technical, issue with that. So What happened in that 1 minute, who knows? So, I wouldn't speculate on the specifics of how he may have been murdered as opposed to killed himself, but I'm very skeptical, especially if there was no evidence of other people being involved in any sort of wrongdoing with him. I mean, or if there, very little evidence of sex trafficking, et cetera, and he was charged with sex trafficking, then, I mean, I guess he had nothing to worry about and why kill himself. I mean, there are lots of different reasons to be very skeptical of that narrative. I also think it's really interesting that since this memo came out, that it's really split the right and Trump's base. It's a lot of his base is very, very angry, and the part that isn't, the segment of his base that seems to be basically saying, get over it, who cares about Epstein, move on, it's old news, tend to be the Zionist social media accounts, like people like Ben Shapiro, etc. So I don't know. I think that's worth noting.
He's saying move on, forget about Epstein.
Yeah, no big deal. Just echoing what Trump said. Like, why are we talking about it? Who cares?
Mm,
That type of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. No, so we don't see him in the cell. You see the outside area, and there's no
Yes.
activity. You don't see him
Right.
killing himself, so you really
Yeah,
don't
there's
know.
right. Exactly.
And there's the missing gap, like Nixon's missing gap on the Watergate tapes. We'll never know what that minute may or may not have shown.
And we also don't see his body taken out either.
Ah.
So, you know.
All right, let me go back to you, if I can, to your theory that this was Trump suddenly having a human conscience. He wants to stop the killing. Netanyahu and his gang, they clearly want to ethnically cleanse this uh, Gaza. They want to take it over, kick them out. Now, I don't know where you stand on the history of Israel. And from the very beginning, Ben Gurion, according to his diaries, made it clear that Greater Israel was the objective, and that taking many villages were destroyed, and 700,000 Palestinians were driven out. Many of them violently, some voluntarily, and some, yes, some Arab generals told them leave and you'll come back later once we win, that kind of thing. But is this a culmination of an 80-year-old project of Zionism in historic Palestine to take it over completely by Jewish Israelis, to drive out Palestinians? Is this what we're witnessing, and did you expect to see it happen to this dramatic scale in your lifetime?
Well, I don't believe that this is going to happen to this dramatic scale. But yes, it's it's the story. They're trying to kick out all the Palestinians. They're doing this, starting to do the same thing in the West Bank, and so on and so forth. As a Jew, I'm embarrassed what's happening, and I want nothing to do with the Israeli state because of this.
That's
I have a quick
Elizabeth.
question.
Yeah, yeah.
Why do you think, what's your take on the way that the Trump camp, everyone who ran with Trump, Trump himself, talked about the Epstein files? Now, when I look back at Trump's recordings when he was interviewed and asked about the Epstein files, he did seem a lot more hesitant to go into that and to say, I will release those, than he was about the JFK files and other subjects. But he did talk about potentially releasing them, and his supporters and the people that he now has in the administration definitely were enthusiastic. I mean, and you can look back at tweets by JD Vance from 2021 where he's basically talking about it very openly, all of that.
Mm.
So what do you make of that turnaround, and also the way in which they did this ridiculous phase one just a few months ago, where they gave right-wing influencers these binders of documents that have been released publicly before? I mean, if they were going to come out and say there's nothing to see here, why have a giant media flop a few months ago? And then
I believe that if they realize that if they release everything, a lot of people will be in trouble. Not necessarily Trump himself, but others as well. Yes.
so you think that they did have evidence? It wasn't all just destroyed initially when the FBI and whoever
No,
seized
I'm sure they do. I'm
Right.
sure they do. I'm sure they do. But I think that they realize that it's too big a problem. It will create too big a problem for a lot of people in the States. and think, again, I go back to that meeting between Arafat and Ehud Barak and Clinton, and probably the two compromised people were prevented from doing a deal because of that, because of these tapes. Ehud Barak was compromised as well. It wasn't only Clinton. Ehud Barak has been known to be close to Epstein or doing stuff with Epstein. And the deep state in Israel never wanted to deal with Arafat. They were talking about a two-state solution.
Now they blame Arafat for
And
that, don't
there
they? U.S.
Huh?
U.S. government,
Sorry?
media, everyone in the U.S. Who talks about this, in the media and government, blames Arafat for the failure of that deal. That he
Well,
rejected.
well, I have no comment about
You're
that.
saying it's Ehud Barak, but I just happened to see this morning by complete coincidence on Twitter. Somebody posted a video of Brzezinski on his show with his daughter, saying about that husband of hers, whose name was Joe Scarborough, saying, "Yeah, it was Arafat he rejected," and Brzezinski said,
Why
"No,
would he
absolutely
reject a deal? Why
false."
would he reject it? He was fighting for a Palestinian state all his life. Why would he reject a deal
Right?
like that?
Yeah,
As
he
a
said.
starter, even as a starter,
Yeah, he said.
I really go back to that and that incident, that time, and I think this was a historical thing. And what happened with Epstein really changed the course of history, Israeli history, with that incident, with that time.
It's interesting because Brzezinski on this interview says that it wasn't Arafat's fault. He was going back to the Arab capitals, but it was Sharon who came to power and then who put an end to it. That's what he said. He didn't talk about anything about any blackmail material on Barak. He may not have known about it or he doesn't want to say. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting that you brought that up, and I'd seen that this morning. Now, let me ask you this about something is changing in the relationship between the United States and Israel, not the government, but people, particularly young people, particularly Democrats. We've seen now polls that show the exact opposite of Democrats of all ages supporting Palestinians more than Israelis in Israel right now. There's been a big change. Can the impunity that Israel has enjoyed for so many decades because of the diplomatic and political and military cover the United States gives it, is this possibly could end, or will Israel survive in the same relationship because of what's
I
happening?
don't, I don't believe that Israel can survive this. The first thing that has to happen is for Mr. Netanyahu to step down. That's number one. Change of government in Israel and a government that's willing to compromise. To compromise and do the right and stop the killing of the Palestinians and so on and so forth. And I have a daughter in Israel. She has three young boys, and I hope for a better future for them by having a peaceful resolution in Israel. But the first thing that has to happen is for Mr. Netanyahu to step down.
Mm-hmm. Is his
And
yes, go on.
and
Is the Israeli
just to
society?
compromise a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From what I understand, most of Israel has supported this operation against Gaza. It supports the genocide,
Oh,
basically.
well, it's a good question how the Israelis are reacting to this. They have a problem with Netanyahu over October 7. Why did he allow it to happen in the first place? And why wasn't there a deal with the Palestinians and Hamas before this happened? He must have known about all the money and arms they were getting from Qatar or other Arab countries. This wasn't a surprise to Mr. Netanyahu. As you may have heard, some of the two of the persons working in his office were accused of taking money from Qatar. Everybody's asking questions about all that. So I think the Israeli population doesn't know or aren't sure what to make out of all of this. They, they are sort of, and I am sure that people in Israel would like to see him go.
Hmm. If all the hostages or the remains or living are returned, would the public turn against the war then? Uh, I wonder if Netanyahu doesn't want the hostages returned, and B, doesn't want to really defeat Hamas right now, because if those two things happen, what's the excuse to continue the ethnic cleansing?
Correct, correct. I don't think the Israelis would want to continue the war if this happens. Okay, and then Palestinians. Well, if Arab money comes in and rebuilds Gaza, okay, and you just make sure the border is shut down or there's something. I don't think the Israeli public will mind that.
Hmm. Do you think that, and this maybe Elizabeth wants to weigh in on this, in terms of Trump's change of heart, as you're saying, before in February, he said we got to clean the whole place out, we find a nice place to live. He's talking like this is the South Bronx, Gaza. They're getting stabbed, they're getting mugged. They're not getting stabbed and mugged, they're having 2,000-pound bombs dropped on their tents. And then we're going to build nice housing for them somewhere else, like a new development in Queens. I mean, this is the way he thinks of Gaza, this guy who doesn't know anything, in my view, about that region. Um, and now he's changed his mind and he wants to end this. Is it because he sees his base, MAGA, is never been wanting this U.S. involvement or Middle East wars? Particularly what happened after Iran. That wasn't really, his base wasn't all that popular with the U.S. getting directly involved with the war in Iran. Could that have, I'm trying to figure out why you think Trump has changed his mind suddenly that he just wants the war to end now.
I believe that he and the people around him realized that this is going to be devastating for the US and the Middle East. And I believe that the people around him realized that their relationship with the Arab countries will fall apart without a peace deal in Gaza, a ceasefire in Gaza. Remember, Saudi Arabia, oil. Remember, now he wants Syria to make a deal with the Israelis, not necessarily Netanyahu. I'm saying the Israelis. Yes,
Mhm.
he wants a peaceful Middle East, and he wants to get the Nobel Peace Prize for it. He failed in he failed in Ukraine, but this one, he thinks he might be able to pull it off. I think so.
Peace Prize, but he also maybe sees, as you say, And I'm hoping the Democratic politicians also see this because they're as guilty as anyone on Biden administration went along with this genocide from the start. I mean, they're realizing this now almost 2 years too late. Thousands and thousands of
It's
people
2 years,
killed.
yeah, two
Now
years
they realize, wait a minute,
later.
bad for us, bad for our relations with the Arab countries. Now they realize this now because they
They
see what
realized this after
Netanyahu did.
2 years and 50,000 Palestinians
Right,
dead,
at least, yes.
and 2,000 Israelis dead as well, by the way. And thing.
And damage from Iranian missiles. Now, let's talk a minute
Yeah.
about Iran. What is your assessment, having been just in the region and what your sources of how much damage was done to the Iranian nuclear program? Number one.
I have a different question. Did the
Okay.
Iranians really have a nuclear bomb program? Did they have one
Right.
in the
But that's
first place? Sorry, let's go there first. Did they really have a nuclear bomb program? I doubt it. I know the thing. And Netanyahu was left without enemies. Iran was the big enemy right now. So Netanyahu had to attack Iran, hoping to pull the United States into a much larger confrontation with Iran. But Trump did what he did. He said, okay, we destroyed their nuclear capabilities. We aren't joining the fight. That's it. Again, another smart thing that was done. And Americans did not kill any Iranians. They bombed these sites without killing anybody. There were no civilians there. Again, I know people don't like Trump, but I say this was a good move. Okay, we don't have they don't have any more nuclear capabilities. We destroyed all their capabilities. Whether they did or not, that's a different story.
yeah.
But uh, but that's it. We're not entering the war. Israel, stop. Netanyahu, stop. Okay, and you have to understand that there's another thing here that caught my attention. There must be a very senior Iranian, very senior Iranian, telling the Israelis where the generals are and so on and so forth, because it's not that easy to kill all those people they targeted. And I believe the Americans and the Iranian mullahs, as opposed to the Revolutionary Guard, have a deal together. I believe the son of the Ayatollah, who's running the show right now, has a deal with the Americans. And I think we're going to see a deal and sanctions removed on the Iranians, which is a good thing.
Obviously.
But I'm talking about the Ayatollahs as opposed to the Revolutionary Guards. They're two different entities. And the last thing Trump wanted, or the people around him wanted, was the Revolutionary Guards to take over from the Ayatollahs. And this is why the talk of regime change was stopped by the Americans. Again, my belief, the right thing was done again. I know I'm complimenting the Trump administration, but they did some right. They did some right things.
But has Trump gotten Netanyahu off his back? He apparently said, okay, I hit them.
Probably not.
That's over.
Probably not. Probably not, because the Israeli Netanyahu group have some powerful allies in the United States? Probably not, but he tried. He's trying. And but again, I believe about Iran, the Americans did the right thing. I believe about Gaza, Trump has the right intentions right now. I'm talking now. I'm not talking in the past or thing. But going after the Iranians like the way Netanyahu did was, again, criminal. Yes. But what the Americans did was the right thing to do. Okay, we destroyed all their nuclear facilities. Stop. They don't have any more nuclear facilities.
That's what he's
Stop.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying.
Right.
I'm saying what is being said. Okay. I don't
Right.
know if they think. And again, there will be a deal between the Ayatollahs and the American administration. And sanctions will be gone, and that would be a good thing for the Iranians.
Will Trump allow them to do any enrichment? And at what percentage?
No, I don't think they want to.
No, and no enrichment at all. Zero. Because
No,
if Trump goes
zero.
back to 3.67%, which is what the Iranians have agreed, they want to go from 60% down to 3.6. That means they will return to the JCPOA, which Trump foolishly withdrew.
No. It doesn't. That's all nonsense. Just stop. That's it. Thing. You don't bargain with the Iranians because they're very good at bargaining. They'll bargain you to death. Okay? They will bargain you to death. You don't bargain with them. You tell them, stop. Stop. I will make a deal with you, but stop. I will remove sanctions, but stop. And because the Europeans didn't really get it when they bargained with them for years and years and years. Again, this is not the type of thing that should have been done with the Iranians. They should say, okay, you guys stop. We will do the right thing by you.
Elizabeth, you want to go back to Epstein to tie this up?
I'm trying to see this from a perspective of him sort of standing up to the Israelis in terms of hushing up the Epstein thing. But really, from my perspective, looking at his funding from the Adelsons and everything else, I can't help but see this as just completely, bending the knee to Israel. I can't see it any other way. And if you want to try to argue that again, go ahead. But that's just kind of my take. So I didn't know if you had a response to that, but
Elizabeth is saying that Trump is giving in to the Israelis and bending his knee to them. Or at least he will in the end, when this week is over, when Netanyahu's done in Washington, whatever.
Maybe, but for now, it's a different story. Maybe at the end of the week, things will change again. Maybe.
I mean, and I say that not only
Maybe.
because of Trump's actions, but also because of Israel's biggest supporters in his movement supporting and backing up his decision on these tapes, on the files, whatever you want to call them. I mean, you've got the Ben Shapiro's of the world, saying the exact same thing Trump is. This isn't making Israel or Israel's supporters angry that I see whatsoever.
I do think Netanyahu. I'm sorry.
I say that Elizabeth may be right. He'll change his mind again. He'll buckle again. But for now, this is the story. By the way, at the time, Robert Perry and myself, we were close friends. Yes, believed that Trump will somehow, with all his crazy ways, bring some sort of peace deal in the Middle East. We really believed that at the time.
And you still
This
hope
was
that,
in it.
Hmm.
Sorry?
And you are
And
still
still,
believing that.
yes, yes. In his crazy ways, he might be the one bringing the peace deal in the Middle East. Yes.
Well, it's about Donald Trump, and getting a Nobel Peace Prize would be the thing that would really make him happy. And that's why Netanyahu went in and nominated him, or he said he would, whatever, the first day that
Yeah.
he arrived on Monday, because he understands
Well, Netanyahu was the last guy
flattery.
that should, yeah, yeah, yeah,
But what
yeah,
what
yeah.
Netanyahu has to understand, in order for him to get the peace prize, he'll have to do these Abraham Accords, right? And for that, they got to stop the
Yeah.
fighting in Gaza. But he
That's right.
can't stop the
That's
fighting
right.
in Gaza if the
We'll
aim is
bring
to finally cleanse it.
Syria. We'll bring Syria. We'll bring Saudi Arabia. We'll bring everybody into the Abraham Accords, and we'll make one big happy family. And he gets the Peace Prize. Okay, but what I'm saying right now is, I would, if I were people in the States, I don't care what color, what party they're from, back Trump over the peace deal, the ceasefire in Gaza. I would
Hmm. Well,
back him in
peace.
full.
He'll
It
get the
doesn't
peace prize,
matter,
and you and Bob
huh?
Perry will get the. He'll get the Peace Prize, and you and Bob Perry will get the Prognostication Award, that you had predicted this, that he will bring peace to the Middle East. And nobody would have thought
Uh,
that. And I still have a hard time thinking, but let's see. I hope you and Bob are right.
okay.